we want to hear about her story and her transformation in the last 2 months that she has been working with me, and she's been doing the New You program. So Elaine, share with everyone, how was your health before we started working? How were you feeling? What symptoms did you have? Everything.
Before we started working together, I was trying to eat as healthy as I could. I have recently stopped doing Nutrisystem diets that I initially lost 50 pounds on a year and a half ago, but then I stalemated. And instead of canceling it, the one thing good about it was that I ended up staying where I was for about a year and a half. And no matter what I did, I couldn't lose weight. So the main thing that got me working with Miriam is for the fact that I have been dealing since the early 2000s with a torn meniscus in my right knee. And because I was working my business at the time, I could not close it to get my knee corrected, when it would have just taken orthoscopic surgery to do it. So I've been living with pain, taking Advil as my self-medication. When I was working, my worst day of Advil was taking 26 pills in a 24-hour period, because I had been on my knee, I'd been on my feet, and I went from doing 2 pills at one time to 3. Normally, with the weight I was carrying, I was, as a habit, I was taking 3 pills every time I took Advil. When it got bad, I would up it to 4 pills. At the point I started working with Miriam, I was doing Advil maybe every 2 days instead of every day. I had moved out of my house into an apartment complex. So in order for my dogs to go out, I had started walking my dogs 2-3 times a day for maybe 10 minutes. I was so unsteady with walking on the dirt or sand, grass, that I got trekking sticks to use one just to stabilize me while I'm out with the dogs. And I had to brace myself, because when they decide to chase a bird or another dog, they hit that 30-foot leash, with 30 pounds of pressure times 2 going forward. And, it kind of got scary, because if I fall outside, I didn't know how I was going to get up. Plus the fact I'd end up injuring my knee again. So I wasn't happy with how I was feeling. I was getting up during the winter here in Florida. The sun was coming up at 6 o'clock before the time change, and I was waking up and getting out of bed by 8 o'clock, which pushed me back late for my schedule if I've got Zoom calls to be on. So I was between, since being in COVID and everybody being housebound, I was leading a pretty stagnant life. And I was embarrassed for the fact that when I started with Miriam, I was 298 pounds. And when I got weighed in the last time with my doctor, I was 304 pounds. So I was not happy. I was not eating well. I can't say I'm a social drinker, because I don't drink by myself. I haven't been going out. If I was doing anything, I would get Italian food, some kind of pasta with a salad, and bring it in. Which didn't bother me, because I like myself, except I'd like myself a little more doing more stuff. So when I started with Miriam, that it was after the new year. I decided, to this day, I was thinking about it on our call this morning earlier, and I was trying, because I asked Jason what got him started working with Miriam. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, going, how did how did we get started? I know I filled out a questionnaire for her, but I was sitting, I had no idea what I was getting into. I started it during one of Tony Robbins' 5-day challenges. So I was doing what I was told. And by the fifth day was, no, I guess it was a 7-day challenge, the New World, New You challenge. And by the last day of the challenge, I did that lemongrass detox. Then I did the fruit and the smoothies. Still haven't gotten the hang of doing the Wonder Drink yet. That is my biggest challenge. And then I needed something. I got to do salads on the weekend. I was so excited to eat a salad because when I go out, that's what I normally eat. And so I had it because of I was on the challenge all day long. I had it delivered and I didn't realize until it arrived that it had chicken on it. So I kind of like made 2 meals out of it and I pulled off all the chicken and didn't think about it until the next day when I was having the rest of the salad for lunch. And I was sharing the chicken with my dogs and I ate a piece. And when I owned up to the fact that I had a piece of chicken, I had to start all over again. I thought I was gonna die with the lemongrass detox to the point where at the end of the second day, and again I was on another challenge at that time because I had them somehow. I managed to get them back to back. I was pleading with Miriam over Messenger, can I please start eating something, anything? I just felt that I needed something more than lemongrass tea in my body. So, but I have to say, 10 weeks later, I've lost, I, when I moved out of my house, my scales went into storage. So I had no idea what my weight was exactly when we guesstimated it. But I finally, last week, got to see my doctor and get weighed in, and I have never wanted to step on a scale more, especially with running shoes on, as I did last week. And when I watched, I kind of like pushed the nurse's hand away from the scale so I could adjust the weight because I knew where I wanted to start. And I kept pushing it down. I started at 298. I kept pushing it down past 280, and it was still sitting on the bottom on the bar, sitting down. So when I got down to 270, it started to get a little movement in the bar. And so I kept tapping it and got it down to 262, where it was it was balancing, and I was just like, oh my God. I did my happy dance standing on the scale. I was cheering. I was going, yes. And everybody in the office, they didn't know what was going on, what all the racket was. And then I found out that I had gotten, I don't know if you all know anybody who's a diabetic, but I absolutely refuse to do anything with insulin or with the testing that I'd have to stick myself. And my worst reading was over before Halloween, and I was at 9.2. on my blood sugars. Well, I had, and this is what I was waiting for most, because when I got my lab work and they told me about my lab work, I am 1/10 of a point away from being normal with my blood sugars. Everything went down. They were more excited about the BMI, which, yet again, everybody's telling me what it is, but all I know is how my clothes are fitting. And the the thing that I knew I had made a change was that it got cold down here in Florida one night, got down to 38 degrees. And when it gets cold, my knees get very, very sensitive, very painful walking. And if I get jerked, I'd probably end up on the face first in the dirt. So I pulled out my fur coat that I haven't worn in 5 or 6 years. But the last time I did wear it, it gapped like 4 or 5 inches open across my midsection. So that night, at 10 o'clock at night, I decided, well, it's warm, it'll protect my knee. So what the heck, I pulled it on thinking that it was going to gap again. And when I put it on, the coat closed on its own completely. I haven't had that coat close on me since I lived in Illinois back in the 1980s, early 80s. And I couldn't believe it. I put on the hook and, they have hook and eyes for fur coats. And it looked like I had two arrowheads coming out of my midsection of my body. So I undid that and just let the coat close on its own. And I knew I was changing. I had seen little changes, in myself. I lived in my house for 30 years and close to 30 years. And I had a mirrored wall that it's very hard to not look at yourself in the mirror, but I was excellent at avoiding looking at myself. So now, I don't check myself out, but I know I'm changing. And the latest thing was I got in the pool yesterday at the apartment complex for the first time. And I had a brand new suit I put on that I have had for a few years because I couldn't fit into it. And this one I hadn't even taken out of its packing. So it was literally in the bag. And when I put it on yesterday, it went right on. And it was very exciting. I think
That's great. No, that's great. Absolutely. I mean, I'm over here just, cheering you on all the way. I am so, so proud of you. I know it's not easy, right? I mean, you've lived a total different life that what we work on, but you have taken this journey on and you really owned it. And even when you had meat and you're like, I had a little tiny piece of chicken, Miriam, I was like,
it was the only
let's do a reset again. And I know it's so rewarding because you've shared with me over and over again how some people have come to you and complimented you. People are noticing it's not only you. How does that make you feel when you see others noticing, your changes?
It was almost when people started making comments and telling me that last weekend I went and saw my hairstylist after I got my nails done, and everybody who was, because I see them, I walk in and I walk out, but they all sat there and they're like, Elaine, you're glowing. Why are you glowing? And then they realized then they looked at me and they go, oh my God, how much, because everybody knew I was taking this on. for me, it was doubly intensive for the fact that the three things that I can have not had in 10 weeks, excuse me, is any type of refined sugar. I'm a breadaholic. I loved fresh bread, croissants, you name it. Croissants and sourdough bread are my big things. And coffee. I was in the coffee business for 24 years. And I had gotten to the point that I would, once I moved into this apartment, I was having a cup of coffee a day and no more. When I lived at the place before I moved into this apartment, I was going to Starbucks at least 2 or 3 times a day during the total lockdown. And I would wait in a line up to 45 minutes to get my coffee. And, they had this egg bite thing that was very tasty. It was egg whites and roasted peppers that I would have. That would be my breakfast every day. But I haven't cheated. I haven't been to Starbucks in 10 weeks. I haven't made coffee in 10 weeks. I haven't had bread, even though, I do get a couple times. I've gotten avocado toast, but it's actually not toasted. It's just avocado on bread. So I just scrape the avocado and the arugula off and put some salsa on it and have that for breakfast. But I totally surprised myself for the fact that I haven't cheated. I finally told Nutrisystem what I was doing. I realized that I had hit such a plateau with Nutrisystem because their food it's prepared food and there's so much preservatives in it that I went and once I started their diabetic menu, I stopped losing weight altogether. And it wasn't until recently that I put 2 and 2 together because I can eat all the fruit I want, all the salads I want. And my trainer saw me yesterday. He's like, so first thing he said when I talked to him the day before was, well, where are you getting your protein? And I just started naming the different beans and broccoli and cauliflower that I get, and edamame, and that I get protein from. And we just got a viable protein powder to put in my shakes that actually I used yesterday because after working out in the pool, I was totally drained and I was shaky because I needed something in my body. And I had first the shakes ended once I got my strength back once I had a smoothie, but then before the becoming challenge, I did a protein power shake in a smoothie, and that held me over for the rest of the day.
And it's raw vegan too. So
yeah.
I have a question.
The hard part is not cooking.
Yeah, not cooking. So I have a question for you. What are some good changes that have happened that you didn't expect?
The good changes that have happened is working with Tony Robbins and everybody I've worked with. People get up at 5 o'clock in the morning like it's nothing. And I have somebody that I work with who lives in Sweden who does a 10 o'clock call. And it's 4 o'clock in the morning here in Florida. And, when I first started doing it, I was drinking coffee. In fact, the last time I woke up, I would have coffee sitting with me while I was doing the call. But what I've noticed is the longer I'm doing this program, I'm waking up at 5 o'clock 4 o'clock. And whether I get out of bed, I'm wide awake. I'm not in a fog, except for last week where I have to admit I was in a fog, but we figured out what caused that. But yeah, I mean, my energy is more sustained. Um, it's really kind of interesting. I usually take the dogs out every day for either 4 or 5 times a day, but I'm taking them out for 20 minutes and longer each time I go out. So for right now, until I got in the pool, that was my activity because my knee has, I've been, I'm trying to build my knees up so I can do longer walks. And with the pool, with the water and the weight restriction isn't a problem, that is going to help me even more. And then maybe I can get back on my rebounder and little tramp and start working on my balance again. Because
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do, and I've fallen here in the apartment twice. And each time I did it, one was at 11:30 at night. The other one was Monday in the middle of the afternoon. And my knees just buckled. But I was able, what I noticed, especially on Monday, that I was able to, once I figured out how I was going to get off the tile floor, that once I got myself in position, I stood up within 10 seconds. It was getting to that, figuring out how I was going to do it and protect my knee, kneeling on tile, that took the longest part. But, it's interesting. I've already started buying clothes, and I've bought them two sizes down from where I was. The shirt I have on today was, when I bought it, was tighter around my midsection to the point where if I'm, either sitting on the couch or working at the computer, the hem would roll up. Well, the hem's not rolling up anymore. It's staying down in place. So, and that's just happened, I would say, in the last 3 weeks. I mean, the changes are really starting to add up.
That's incredible. So let's recap. You started working about 2 months ago, give or take, and you've lost about 40 pounds, more or less. You went from a high diabetic to a 0.1 non-diabetic.
Yeah.
You went from having high, all of your markers were high, into now they're all normalized. You went to not really have a lot of energy, and now even being able to wake up early in the morning like Tony Robbins. And your skin's glowing. That is awesome. That's incredible.
I'm glad it's glowing now because one thing I will admit, your body does go through changes.
Yes, it does.
As Jason was saying today in the challenge, what initially he saw was he was having pain in his feet. And I'll tell you, and I'm amazed at what my body has been through with the way I've taken care of it. And last week, it was paying me back. But my skin's glowing again.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing, right? So if we don't take care of our bodies now all of these things are building up, and it's going to come back, to pay us a visit in the future, and we may unfortunately end up with a lot more horrifying things to deal with. And so I am so proud that you are taking this head on, and you're doing it for yourself to make you feel better, to make you enjoy life, and to make you go through life in such a much and healthier way. If somebody is thinking about actually taking the steps to working with us, what would you tell them?
That they need to be true to themselves. Have a very blank, not blank, have a very frank conversation and to figure out why they are doing this to themselves. I was unhappy. Even though it was classic. Friends of mine, when COVID started, had been complaining that I was turning into a hermit. And then COVID started, and I was just like, well, welcome to my world, everybody. You know, because I mean, I'm happy. I had my pool in my backyard, so I was in my pool almost every day. And then a couple months into COVID, I ended up selling my house extremely fast and had 3 weeks to move out of it. You know, when it got in, everything set into motion, and I was so freaked out about it that I didn't real. I mean, I was using food as my security blanket, and the only thing I was doing for myself was stepping out and meeting people via Zoom and the internet on Facebook doing the challenges. But I just I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with how, you know, with how I was living. I wasn't happy with myself, and I'm my own best friend. So if I'm not happy with myself, then everything I do is going to sabotage me moving forward. And that's when, after I met you, Miriam, and Jason, and everybody doing the Becoming a Challenge last fall to become unstuck, you know, Miriam, your mother's story or your grandmother's story really intrigued me for what she has accomplished and how old she is, living down in Brazil in her later 80s and still carrying a full load of clients. You know, she's a physician, and you know, she's still helping all these clients. And when you were describing her to me, she sounded like a Brazilian answer to my mom. And my mom was going strong until she was 94. And she, I mean, she lived a great life. But once I knew she was independent, she lived by herself after her second husband died. But once she was taken out of where she lived in Illinois and brought down to Florida, you know, I could see things were starting to happen. You know, because every time mom had to go out and someplace, she'd end up getting lost. She referred to it as wandering. But then her car was taken away from her and she was dependent. And I knew once that happened that it was a matter of time before, you know, she was gone. And it took 3 weeks for mom to downslide to the point where, you know, that was her independence, was her car. And not being able to drive it, but still having it sitting in in her garage, just, you know, did irreparable damage. And I have beaten myself up because of my weight for the last, I would say, 40 years, because I put everything I had into my business. And thus, I have no relationship, no children. Uh, and my sisters made a joke out of it that I wouldn't get married or wouldn't have kids. And they laughed in my face about it. So I was my own worst enemy. And once I decided to make the change, you know, as I said, I was in the middle, I was starting a 7-day challenge, and I was starting this new routine, and it, you know, I thought I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I learned quickly, especially after I had to do the lemongrass decaf after, or detox after I had that itty bitty piece of chicken. And
I love you. Are you glad I made you do it? Are you glad with the results?
oh, I'm thrilled with the results. And yes, I'm glad you made me start over because I had more time to figure it out. And I had an idea of what I was doing.
Yeah.
So and I can't complain with the results I've had. I'm only halfway through.
Yes, yes. There's just so much more to come. So there you have it, everyone. A complete transformation, only 2 months in, and there's just a whole new life ahead of Elaine. Just so many good vibrations sending your way because you deserve it. You've done it. You're doing it. You're staying with it. So anyone that wants to, partake on these incredible transformation for yourselves as well, and start on this journey to making changes step by step. Sometimes it's not about going out and just doing it all at once. Sometimes it's just, one tiny change at a time. So with the starter steps to healthy choices, Jen and I are going to be talking to you about that and teaching you integrate those changes for you as well. Elaine, thank you so much, and best of luck to you. Continue on, stay strong, and let's keep doing it.
And if anybody has questions, they can reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to share and guide them.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes, definitely do. And she's in the group, so reach out to her. Love you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.